Today we will learn about one of the greatest figures in world history, while also improving your English step by step. Welcome back to Mindset English, where every story is more than just practice. It's a journey of inspiration, learning, and growth. If you're watching this, you're ready to explore the incredible life of a man who changed the world not with violence, but with truth and simplicity. He didn't just fight for freedom, he lived it in every word and every act. So sit back, grab your tea or coffee, and get ready to improve your English while discovering the inspiring story of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was born on October 2nd, 1869, in a small coastal town called Porbandar, located in what is now Gujarat, India. His birth name was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, but the world would later come to know him as Mahatma, a word that means great soul. He didn't come from a powerful or rich family, but even as a child, there was something unique about him. An inner light, a quiet strength, a mind always curious about truth. His father, Karamchand Gandhi, worked as a chief minister, and his mother, Putli Bai, was deeply religious. She followed strict spiritual routines, fasting, prayer, acts of service, and passed on those values to young Mohandas. From her, Gandhi learned the importance of faith, self-discipline, and compassion. As a boy, he was shy, soft-spoken, and even afraid of the dark. But despite being timid, he was always eager to learn, and he loved listening to stories from Indian epics like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. These stories taught him powerful lessons about right and wrong, about courage and justice, about living truthfully. At the age of just 13, Gandhi was married to a girl of the same age named Kasturba, who would later be known as Kasturba Gandhi. This was a common practice in India at the time. Though he was just a boy, the marriage had a deep impact on him. Over time, he would come to see Kasturba not just as a partner but as a teacher, strong, patient, and deeply committed to his journey. They would go on to face many challenges together, but her support would remain unshaken through every stage of his transformation. After completing his early education in India, Gandhi decided to pursue a career in law. In 1888, at the age of 18, he traveled to London to study. It was his first time leaving India, and it was a major turning point in his life. The journey itself was full of uncertainty. Gandhi faced difficulties adapting to a new culture. He struggled with English pronunciation, with Western manners, and even with his own sense of identity. He tried dressing like an English gentleman, attending dance classes, and eating European food. But none of it felt right. Soon, Gandhi returned to a simpler lifestyle. He became a vegetarian again, not only to honor his mother's wishes, but also because it aligned with his growing belief in nonviolence and self-control. He began to read widely, diving into religious texts from Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam. The more he read, the more he realized that all religions had a common thread: love, truth, and peace. These ideas would become the foundation of his philosophy for the rest of his life. In 1891, Gandhi completed his law studies and returned to India. He hoped to start a successful legal career, but his early attempts were disappointing. He was too shy to argue cases in court. His quiet nature made it difficult to build confidence as a lawyer, and he found himself unsure of his path. It was during this period of doubt that a new opportunity appeared, one that would completely change the direction of his life. In 1893, at the age of 24, Gandhi received a job offer from a businessman named Dada Abdullah in South Africa. The job involved helping with a legal case. Gandhi accepted the offer, thinking it would be a short assignment. He had no idea that this journey would open his eyes to a whole new world of injustice and would set him on a path of greatness. When Gandhi arrived in South Africa, he was shocked by the racism and discrimination that people of color, especially Indians, faced every day. Indians were not allowed to walk on the same footpaths as white people. They were denied voting rights. They were required to carry special identification passes at all times. Gandhi himself experienced this discrimination firsthand. One night, while traveling by train from Durban to Pretoria, Gandhi had a first-class ticket. A white passenger objected to his presence in the first-class compartment. Despite holding a valid ticket, Gandhi was ordered to move. When he refused, he was forcibly thrown off the train at the next station. It was a cold, dark night. Alone, on the platform, Gandhi sat in silence, reflecting. That moment of humiliation lit a fire within him. He realized this wasn't just about him. This was about thousands of others who faced the same injustice silently. Something had to change. From that moment, Gandhi made a decision. He would not accept injustice, not for himself, and not for anyone else. But he also chose a unique path to fight back. Not with hatred, not with violence, but with truth and non-violence. He called this method satyagraha, meaning truth force, or the power of truth. Over the next 21 years in South Africa, Gandhi transformed from a quiet lawyer into a bold leader. He organized the Indian community, built movements, and created awareness through peaceful protests. One of his earliest acts of resistance involved burning the discriminatory identity passes that Indians were forced to carry. In a public gathering, hundreds of people came together and burned their passes. It was an act of courage and defiance, but also one of peace. Gandhi also created the Tolstoy Farm, a cooperative community where people of all backgrounds lived together following principles of simplicity, self-reliance, and non-violence. They grew their own food, cleaned their own spaces, and shared their knowledge. It wasn't just a place to live, it was a training ground for character and values. In 1913, Gandhi led a massive march of thousands of workers against unjust laws. The march was peaceful but powerful. It showed the strength of unity, the dignity of nonviolence, and the determination of people who refused to be treated as less than human. When Gandhi returned to India in 1915, he was 45 years old and already a recognized leader. But he didn't rush into politics. Instead, he traveled throughout the country, visiting small villages, talking to common people, and learning about their daily struggles. He saw that most Indians lived in poverty, with little food, poor sanitation, and no real freedom. Farmers were being forced to grow crops they couldn't eat, and taxes were crushing their hope. In 1917, Gandhi took up the cause of the farmers in Champaran, Bihar, who were being forced to grow indigo under British pressure. Despite threats from authorities, Gandhi stayed with the villagers, documented their suffering, and organized peaceful protests. Eventually, the British had to give in. The farmers were allowed to grow food again. It was Gandhi's first big victory in India, and it showed the power of peaceful resistance. At the same time, Gandhi worked to unite Hindus and Muslims. He supported the Caliphate movement led by Indian Muslims to protect the Ottoman Caliph. He believed that unity among communities was essential for India's freedom. His support for the movement helped create a bridge between different religions and created a shared sense of purpose. By 1920, Gandhi had become the face of the Indian independence movement. He launched the non-cooperation movement, encouraging Indians to stop cooperating with the British in every way possible. He asked them to boycott British goods, resign from government jobs, and reject British-run schools. Instead, he promoted Swadeshi, use of Indian-made products. He himself began spinning his own cloth on a charkha and encouraged others to do the same. The image of Gandhi sitting cross-legged spinning cotton became a symbol of national pride and resistance. The movement spread across the country. Millions joined. But in 1922, a tragic incident in a village called Chauri Chaura changed everything. Protesters set a police station on fire, killing several officers. Gandhi was devastated. Though he wasn't there, the violence went against everything he stood for. In response, he called off the movement, showing that nonviolence was not just a strategy for him. It was a deep moral commitment. After years of rebuilding, Gandhi launched another powerful movement in 1930, the Salt March. At that time, the British had made it illegal for Indians to collect or sell salt. Everyone, no matter how poor, needed salt, but they were forced to buy it with high taxes. Gandhi decided to challenge this. He walked 240 miles from his ashram in Sabarmati to the seaside village of Dandi. Thousands joined him along the way. When he reached the shore, he bent down, picked up a handful of natural salt from the sand, and declared it free. This simple act became a turning point. It inspired the nation and shocked the British. Gandhi was arrested again, but each time he went to prison, his influence only grew. People began to see him as more than a political leader. He became a symbol of moral strength and sacrifice. His commitment to truth, simplicity, and equality earned him global respect. Leaders and thinkers around the world admired him. In 1942, as World War II raged on, Gandhi made his boldest demand yet. He called for the British to leave India entirely. The Quit India movement was born. He urged Indians to do or die. The message was clear: fight peacefully, but do not stop until India was free. The British responded with force, arresting Gandhi and thousands of others. Protests erupted everywhere. Even in jail, Gandhi's presence inspired hope. And finally, after decades of struggle, India gained independence on August 15, 1947. Gandhi's dream had come true, yet the moment of victory was not without sorrow. This separation unleashed a storm of violence unlike anything Gandhi had ever seen. Centuries of coexistence between Hindus and Muslims suddenly gave way to hatred and fear. Families who once lived side by side became enemies overnight. There were riots, murders, and mass migrations. People were dragged from trains, houses were burned to the ground, and entire communities vanished in bloodshed. Gandhi, now 78 years old, could barely bear the pain. His entire dream had been to see a united India, where people of all religions lived as one. Now, that dream lay shattered. But Gandhi didn't give in to despair. He didn't lock himself away or curse the future. Instead, he did what he always had. He walked directly into the heart of the crisis, with only his faith and compassion as weapons. He began to travel across the most violent regions, determined to stop the madness. With no shoes on his feet, Gandhi walked through villages where neighbors had turned on each other. He spoke not with anger, but with deep sorrow and love. He met with mobs, looked into their eyes, and begged them to stop the killing. "We are all children of the same God," he said. "Why are we fighting?" People listened because they knew Gandhi wasn't just speaking, he was living his message. In Calcutta, when the city was drowning in communal hatred, Gandhi arrived and refused to leave until peace returned. He didn't hold press conferences or deliver speeches from high stages. Instead, he chose to fast, to stop eating until the violence ended. This hunger strike was not the first of its kind. Gandhi had often used fasting as a form of protest, a way to awaken people's hearts and remind them of their conscience. In Calcutta, the effect was immediate. His simple act of self-sacrifice touched even the most hardened people. Slowly, weapons were dropped. Old enemies began to speak again. The city, overwhelmed by violence, took its first steps toward peace, not because of force, but because one man chose to suffer rather than see others suffer. Gandhi then moved to Delhi, where violence had once again broken out between Hindus and Muslims. Despite his failing health, he began another hunger strike, this time under even more dangerous conditions. Delhi was on the edge of collapse. Tensions were high. The air was thick with hate. But Gandhi, weak and aging, sat down in silence and refused to eat until people promised to live together in harmony. It was never about the food. It was about conscience. People saw Gandhi's frail body and remembered his strength. They remembered the sacrifices he had made not just for independence, but for every human being, regardless of religion or caste. In time, his message reached deep into people's hearts. Hindu and Muslim leaders came together. They made promises of peace. Gandhi broke his fast only when he believed they were sincere. Even in these final months, Gandhi refused to change his simple lifestyle. He lived in a modest room, slept on the floor, and wore the same hand-spun cotton clothes that symbolized his philosophy of self-reliance and humility. He ate basic meals, often just fruit and goat's milk. His spinning wheel remained his daily companion, and he continued to meet visitors from every corner of society, rich and poor, powerful and powerless. He never stopped fighting for the rights of those who had been forgotten. He gave special attention to the Dalits, the so-called untouchables, whom he called Harijan, children of God. For Gandhi, the soul of India was not in its cities or temples, but in the dignity of its poorest citizens. He believed that every human being deserved respect, regardless of their caste or religion. His mission for social justice was just as important to him as political freedom. On January 30th, 1948, just a few months after India gained its independence, Gandhi prepared for his daily evening prayer meeting at Birla House in Delhi. People gathered around, eager to see him and hear his words. As he walked toward the prayer ground, a man stepped out from the crowd. His name was Nathuram Godse. Godse was angry. He believed Gandhi had been too kind to Muslims and had betrayed the Hindu cause by supporting the partition. In his eyes, Gandhi was a threat to the new India. Before anyone could react, Godse pulled out a gun and fired 3 shots. Gandhi collapsed to the ground, his hands still joined in greeting. His last words were whispered, "Hey Ram." Oh God. The news of Gandhi's assassination sent shockwaves across the world. India was devastated. Millions wept. People poured into the streets to mourn the man who had become the moral compass of a nation. His body was carried through the city in a procession that stretched for miles. His ashes were later immersed in the holy Ganga River, where people prayed and promised to carry on his legacy. But Gandhi's death was not the end. In many ways, it was a beginning. His message of nonviolence, of love, of truth, these ideas did not die with him. They were planted deeply in the hearts of those who had followed him, and even in those who had once doubted him. Around the world, his legacy continued to grow. Martin Luther King Jr. in America, Nelson Mandela in South Africa, and countless others drew strength from his example. Gandhi showed humanity that you do not need an army to bring change. You do not need wealth or political power. What you need is conviction. courage, a heart full of compassion. He taught us that even in a world full of violence, peace is still possible, if we are willing to fight for it, not with weapons, but with our values. In the years that followed, Gandhi's teachings were not just remembered, they were honored. His face was placed on all Indian currency, not to celebrate a political figure, but to remind every citizen that greatness comes from within. The image on the currency comes from a famous photograph taken in 1946, where Gandhi is smiling, not a victorious smile, but a peaceful one. A smile of hope, of understanding, of enduring strength. Gandhi's lessons remain just as important today. He taught us that nonviolence is the greatest power we have. It is easy to fight back with anger, to scream or hit when things go wrong. But Gandhi reminds us that real courage lies in patience, in kindness, in choosing peace even when every part of us wants revenge. Whether it's a fight at school, problems at work, or arguments at home, his wisdom tells us to pause, breathe, and respond with love. He also taught us the power of truth. Gandhi often called his life an experiment with truth, because he believed that truth wasn't just a word, it was a way of living. He stayed true to his beliefs even when the world laughed at him, and in doing so, he changed that world. His story encourages each of us to stand firm in our own truth, even when it's difficult. When others tell us our dreams are too big, Gandhi's journey reminds us that honest effort and faith can move mountains. Another powerful lesson from his life is that small actions matter. When Gandhi made salt by the sea or spun cloth on his wheel, people mocked him. But he knew that every great movement begins with a single step. You may feel like your efforts are too small, that your voice is too quiet, but Gandhi's life proves that every little act counts. Every moment of courage, every kind word, every peaceful choice, it all adds up. And perhaps one of the deepest truths Gandhi shared is that happiness does not come from things. He lived a life of simplicity, not because he had no other choice, but because he believed that joy came from serving others, not owning more. In today's world of distractions and materialism, his life is a shining reminder that peace of mind, purpose, and real happiness come from within, from living with integrity and gratitude. Above all, Gandhi taught us to never give up. He faced unimaginable obstacles. He was imprisoned, beaten, misunderstood, but he kept going. He never stopped believing in a better world. His famous words, "First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win," are more than a quote. They are a roadmap for anyone who dares to follow their purpose. So as you listen to Gandhi's story, ask yourself, what do I believe in? What kind of world do I want to build? And am I willing to start, even if I feel small, even if no one believes in me? You don't have to be a saint. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to believe that kindness matters. That truth is worth standing for, and that peace begins with you. Gandhi wasn't a superhero. He was an ordinary man with an extraordinary will. and that same power lives in each of us. His life is a map, a light, and a challenge to rise higher, love deeper, and walk forward, even when the road is hard. Remember, you are stronger than you think, braver than you know, and more capable than you've ever imagined. Let this story live in your heart, and let it guide your steps as you continue your own journey toward truth, justice, and freedom. Thank you for listening to this powerful story on Mindset English. If it touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to support more inspirational stories like this one. Keep believing, keep growing, and keep walking the path of peace.